Night, Kev.
Happy Tuesday to everyone. I will
Happy Tuesday.
quickly share the agenda if I can get it up. I think I can. There it is. Yay. Okay. And so I was just kind of thinking, I know we gave a quick debriefing at our board meeting, at the last board meeting, given some feedback, some of the feedback that we had heard from the various constituency groups that we met with regarding ESSER 2 funding. And then of course we had our first meeting with the PLTI regarding the general city operating budget. And then I just wanted to find an opportunity to also talk about some groups that were still additional groups we'd still like to engage, get some additional feedback from this group to see if there's strategically anyone else you feel like we need to engage as part of this process. There's been a lot of, I didn't realize there was a significant delay on my side. I hope you guys are hearing me in real time.
I think so.
Okay. And then last but not least, just kind of revisit our budget timelines and see how much opportunity we still have for getting out in the community and educating the community on the budget process, our needs as a district, what this means for us short-term and long-term, and continue to plant these seeds out in the community about, continue to trying to drum up support for our city budget. And then of course we talk about next steps and whatever that call to action might look like. So I thought we would just start with our latest meeting first, which is citywide PTO last night. Certainly there was a lot of feedback around the reopening, and it was our parents' first time in a formal setting where they were able to speak directly, with our superintendent, and then of course the admin team. But there also, I heard a lot of support overall for the budget. So I'm just curious how the communications committee felt about the evening. One, I understood certainly the frustration regarding the reopening. I think that was normal and folks needed an outlet for that. But I also thought that it was interesting, given the seeds we planted over the last couple of months. There appears to be some momentum, regarding support for an operating our city budget. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts were after last night's meeting, and then I'd like Courtney, Ann, and I to talk about our experiences with these other groups as part of the ESSER 2 funding presentations.
Yeah. Kate, yeah.
Yeah, by all means, Rich.
Yeah. Kevin, to your point, I just got off a meeting, since I'm the liaison with the Pembroke PTO, and Chrissy, who's the Pembroke chairperson there, gave an incredible review summary of the citywide last night. Essentially, the bulk of her summary was the reasons that it was necessary to support the administration to the Board of Ed's budget. She has a form letter which she circulated, and Dr. Epple is going to utilize and circulate, throughout her staff, and Chrissy's going to send it to the parents, is a form letter asking the parents to support the basically Board of Ed budget, as simple as that. And she also called out for other people to do the same for friends in different schools if they can get that campaign working. So I think your meeting with them resonated. She didn't really talk about much of the schools in September opening. The focus of her conversation was basically supporting our budget, which I was glad to hear. And so I think based on that, your presentation certainly hit home. And if we can get more schools to do the same thing, and we can get more principals to stand behind us and help generate that paper, and those letters or emails, we're going to council people. And I also suggested to them that if they had any organizations that felt were interested in listening to our presentation, that would, be supportive of us and would help us spread the word, to let me know, and I'll let you know. I said we try to engage them in a conversation and do a presentation or get them information. So at least on one school, it was very positive feedback. I'm realistic and hopeful that the feedback was positive on all the schools, and if we can build that momentum, and we can build momentum with the teachers and other people in the city, I think enough people would hear that something has to be done. And I'm not saying, and I keep repeating myself, don't storm City Hall, but something has to be done. And this is a year that we can't waffle. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Jeff. Any other thoughts about last night specifically?
I thought it went really well. I know that it's a little bit difficult. Sorry, it seems like I'm having a delay on my end here. I apologize. I know it's been a little bit difficult in that a lot of the questions had to do with school reopening and the pressure that parents feel there. So I certainly appreciate that challenge. But I do think that, to hear some of the level of interest that's there in asking questions about the budget, to hear questions, to hear sort of that there are people in that group who are looking to advocate for the budget actively this year. That's something new that we haven't seen in years past. So that's a very encouraging sign to me.
Oh, Kevin, we can't hear you.
If I can also offer, one of the parents, quite frankly, I thought did us a huge favor last night. I believe it was Katie Williams, who took the liberty to develop a feedback form, a template for families to participate in. So I believe they had a petition signed to support the budget. That was one thing that the community had going on, where I believe she said they had over 400 names in support of the city budget, of the district budget. But then secondly, there were also, opportunities for people to also sign up for a template if they wanted to write a letter. And organically, Kate, I was really happy to see that was happening, because of course we can't, write the letter for everyone. So it was really nice to see that the parents took it upon themselves to, put together their own call of action in support of the district budget. So I was really happy to see that was happening. And again, it's too bad that Sal can't be here this evening to hear this, because I know it was a tough evening for him. But he's also, quite frankly, provided, given his advocacy for the budget, like we've also laid the groundwork, for the advocacy that has taken place in our community. And the parents are behind this right now. And so we continue to plant these seeds, and hopefully we can get the support that we need, whether that turns into something right now or later. I think the important thing is, we're educators. I continue to say this, so we can continue to educate the community, and hopefully we can get the support that we need. Amy, I know you're taking notes, but did you have any thoughts on this as well last night?
Well, I just was at the budget workshop.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I feel like I was at the budget workshop. I was not able to go to the citywide PTO. When I looked today, I was trying to find a place to watch it, and I wasn't able to do that. I don't know if it takes an extra day to get on. I looked on YouTube. I looked on at our TV. So I'm not sure where to find that. But I just from hearing the comments that have been made already tonight, I'm really excited, because as Richard, I've been, hanging with Richard Janelli since I got on the board. And, and the frustration of, trying to get the community to understand. And I feel like something's it's definitely different this year. And that's pretty amazing when you think about all the money we're getting, which I shouldn't say it like that. When you think about how the federal government is and state government is supplementing us with the CARES and the ESSERs, just wonderful. And I think it speaks to, Sal and all of you on the cabinet, and then, all of us just kind of really making this push to get the information out to the community, get people interested and involved. And it sounds like parents are doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just like you said, Kevin, you just said, so maybe, we're educated to educate them, and maybe we're just laying groundwork and planting seeds right now. And maybe this year won't be the year, but let's believe it is. that not only the city, but the state realizes, what a dire situation it is, and how we have to have something change. Something has to change in a big way.
Yeah, totally agree. And Amy, we can paraphrase for you in case you don't get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
The community made it very clear we need to be back in school, and we totally agreed. And with the federal monies and city monies that we have, that will be our number 1, 2, and 3 priority. And the remaining priorities will follow after we get all of our kids back in school. So.
Well, that's good, because at 7 o'clock this morning, I was taking a walk with a friend in another neighborhood, and I ran into someone who's very vocal. I said to her, "Why aren't you going to run for the school board?" And she said, "No, I like to just be the parent who keeps on." I said, "Oh, great!" But anyway, she was very pleased. She was very pleased with just how much talk there was last night about getting the kids back to school.
There was. It definitely was.
Kate, can I add?
Please, Anne.
As well as some feedback. So I thought the conversation was great, the depth of it, both groups, both sides understanding one another's perspective was amazing. In the bigger picture, I thought this is giving us opportunities to further have monthly conversations with our families. And, that is something that we did a couple of years ago. We had Saturdays with Sal at the FLC that were, okay, it was a small group. I think doing it on Zoom gives us a larger possibility of families being able to be there.
What a great turnout last night, Anne.
It was. So not always will we have these hot topics, but one of the parents called today, and she just wanted to really let us know that she appreciated being listened to and thought that there was more opportunities. Some of the feedback on, I see on our agenda here is the playgroup families. We had a playgroup where we had 8 families on Saturday RSVP, and we had 18 or 19 families show up on Saturday morning. And one of the dads had been at one of the ESSER workshops. And he said, and he's got 3 children in the district. He said, "This is the first time I really felt like my opinion was validated and listened to." And so he's, psyched to have other opportunities to be able to talk with us. So, I think when we think, a little more long-term, this is something we need to build in having these opportunities to talk. Maybe not always hot around ESSER money or budget, but, maybe, we go into some curriculum work and more work around the academy and space issues and things like that.
Right. While we have a platform.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would add too, I really just look forward to all these opportunities to be in the community, even though it wasn't physically in the community. It was so good for me to be able to hear directly from people as someone who was newish when COVID started and we went remote. So I was so appreciative that this group put together with Kevin and Ann, and with your support from the board, all the outreach to the community that happened. And in spite of the disappointing city outcome with the first initial mayor's proposed budget, I still feel really optimistic personally, because of all of the commitment that I was seeing from the community and from families to getting a deeper understanding of, what's driving the underfunding in the city and what's driving, the future of what we're looking at wanting for the city to educate our kids. So it was exciting for me.
So Kate, if it's okay, because I know some people on this call were not part of the the NEA meetings and the student meetings and the playgroup with the families. So we'll kind of summarize quickly. I know I had referenced these things in our last board meeting. One, the PLTI group, I really feel like we need to continue to find ways to leverage this group because, I mean, they're a powerhouse.
Yeah.
They're informed. They want to be involved, and much like our citywide PTO group, and they are not the same faces. I feel like we need to find ways to get in front of this group more often. If there's anything that we can do as a school community to help them, I think it's in our best interest, because I think they're going to be supporters of us. And we, we didn't have a lot on the call that day, but as everyone on this call knows, there's an alumni, PLTI alumni. And so Catherine Tucker, I believe, is a great partner. We had an opportunity to review, that was our first opportunity to review the city, our city ask and the regular operating budget. But it's almost, we really can't present one without also talking about the ESSER II fund. So we talked about the difference between the two. We talked about the priorities associated with ESSER II. We talked about our original ask, and not with any great detail because we wanted to make sure we got in front of the board first, but in broad strokes, we told them that we initially asked the city for $13 million, and that number was going to be reduced because now ESSER II had some eligible areas that could be moved over. That wasn't, that opportunity was not afforded to us when we originally presented our ask to the city. And then after that, we had made some adjustments. We had a very interested group. They had an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. And it felt really good about the potential there. And I feel like if we can find more opportunities to engage them, I feel like that group will get bigger and bigger. It was, just one of many nights we could probably speak to them. Again, there was only about 10 people there that night, but I think with more promotion and more opportunity to engage, I think quite frankly, we would have more folks part of those sessions. So we had a really good meeting. I don't know what Courtney and Ann's thoughts are. I thought it was a really good start.
There were a lot of questions, which was great. I think there's a lot of like reading the room interest, in my opinion, which I really like to see. So that was encouraging.
And in the NEA and the feedback from the students, we did hear some recommendations that were a little different from some recommendations that we had talked about with our administrators and within the cabinet. And so those things were, that kind of feedback is always important. I believe I had mentioned in the meeting, the students had talked about, hoping that the district would find ways to upgrade its infrastructure in the schools to make sure remote learning at home is up to par. Now, of course, if we're not required to deliver remote learning in the fall, then that, it may not have the same type of urgency, but it was one of the things mentioned. Students also talked about finding online, and I love the fact that they focused on these things. They talked about providing online hands-on engagement strategies. So some of the kids talked about STEM in particular, and they said, listen, if we can't be in the classroom and have our science labs in person, then we want to make sure we have science labs remotely and virtual, because we want to still have those experiences. And then, the majority of the students talked about a need and a desire to have, and these are my words, not theirs, but restorative kind of circle conversations with their teachers and their peers, because they felt like they needed time to get to know their teachers and their peers.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to hear the students ask for some type of formal way to engage in a dialogue that talked about social issues, that talked about things that were going on in the community. And it was, it was nice to see them articulate these needs and these wants and desires. And I think it fit nicely under our area, under social emotional support, because that's essentially what they were asking for. And so it was good. It was nice to hear that they were asking for things that we were looking to focus on. And I don't know if you're still there, but I'll just jump to parent meetings, English and Spanish. And so in the English meeting, one of the things that certainly resonated with me that may have been different from other meetings, parents had talked about enrichment opportunities for their kids. They talked about SAT prep. They talked about other enrichment opportunities outside of the opportunities to, regarding retention and remediation. They also wanted opportunities for enrichment. One of the things that resonated with me in the Spanish group, Spanish speaking parent group, families were asking for extracurricular activities as they also did in the English one. But they talked about in the Spanish group and English group, talked about how it's an opportunity to address the social and emotional support that's needed. And so kids can interact with their peers. Could we have extracurricular activities in K-5 and 6-8? They're already provided at 9-12, but could we also find opportunities to do that in K-5, 6-8 so that kids can interact with their peers? Which again, I thought it was a cool ask for parents, as we try to get back to some sense of normalcy. And Courtney, I don't know if you guys remember anything specifically from those meetings you want to highlight.
I
Yes.
really love, yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Courtney, go.
Well, just because it's new to me. So I really, really appreciated in both groups, the English and Spanish speaking parent groups, the family engagement piece. So what was really interesting was they had even like thought through ideas about how it could happen and things that Anne's kind of started, maybe needs just additional support. So little investments that go a huge way is what I heard back. And I knew Anne had been doing this a lot throughout our remote learning, but really engaging the parents to teach them about the technology to support their kids. But not just that, they were talking about like curricular pieces. So they talked about the new math, which is now not new anymore, but like teaching parents the way that they didn't learn math, but through they had recommendations for like asynchronous videos for grades, that wouldn't be a huge investment in time for us because it's and live sessions too, but they had specific suggestions for like engaging parents to be able to teach their kids at home. So even in a not remote world, it really exposed those things that we knew and probably Kara knew and Anne knew, but in a way that they articulated saying like, let's build on this, when we return to school fall, like parents can remain engaged in that way with teaching their kids if we teach them about the technology and or the curriculum in an engaging way. So I really liked hearing that. Yeah.
Absolutely, Courtney. And the sense of ownership that our families have for our schools and for the curriculum and for their love of the schools came through very, very clearly. And when they started to talk about at Morris Street, their theater arts program, which has been one of their best programs that we've actually run through our Family Resource Center there, with the help of the principal and the support of the teachers, the parents really advocated for new curtains. And I know that's
I knew you were going to mention that.
I'm
going to mute myself.
It was so great because it really showed that sense of ownership about their school in saying that we can do these wonderful programs, but if we could just get this one thing fixed, it would be 100% perfect for us. And so, that really hit home.
There was definitely a sense of pride in those moments, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I was in full support of new curtains, but I did not promise we would deliver on the new curtains.
Right.
Gosh, it would have been nice too, because they were definitely prideful.
Yeah.
So I know we had also talked about, I'm sorry, I just want to summarize those areas. One, this was a condition of the grant that we have to submit in a couple of weeks. It was a condition of the grant to engage community groups, and we feel like, we wanted to make sure we did our due diligence. But I also think we have found some goodwill in the community, and this will continue to help us with the support that we need for our overall operating budget. We did explain, as when talking about the ESSA funds, what's eligible for, that we don't want to build in reoccurring costs into the plan. And that's how it's differentiated from our Danbury education budget. And why there's still an ask from the city at the same time, while we will be using these monies to address these initiatives and the remediation that's needed to help us recover from COVID pandemic. And I think folks understood that. And I think there's a general understanding after leaving these groups, this is insurance money. We're getting our insurance check and we're going to begin to address the damage that's been done. And they know that they can count on us to make sure those monies are redeployed in the right way. And we provided those guidelines that the government is expecting us to spend them, and how their feedback, potentially can inform those decisions. So I feel like when we go back and we continue to talk about the city budget, we have folks that we can continue to turn to and hopefully leverage into support for our city budget. But and I know we had talked about a couple of meetings ago some additional groups we would like to engage, and so I added those in number 3. I just wanted to get your feedback about C in particular, because I know we've visited them a couple of times, and just wanted to see if that was also still reality.
Yes, so I've reached out to both of those groups, A and C, NAACP and the Brazilian community, the Emmanuel Church on Main Street, to bring them together. And the Dominican Club, I've had conversations with Elvis Nuvos, and he is bringing it to his board to come up with a date.
That's awesome.
Those will be moving forward. I think once we have some better information following tonight's meeting of City Council, then we'll be able to format a plan of, or an action plan of how we want to meet with those groups and what's the message that we're sending.
Okay. So I had talked to Kate earlier this afternoon, and I think for a moment I had talked to Kate about, there was a nice moment, when the parents had said, hey, this is what we want you to do, this is what you can do as next steps. And going to the NAAC meeting, Dominican Club meeting, Brazilian community meeting, I don't know if that organic moment, that moment is going to happen organically in our meeting with them next week. And so I'm just wondering if this group may have any thoughts, perhaps there's a point person for each of these groups that we can help them with, or maybe connect with someone from Citywide PTO. Just if they're not aware, they can know what's out in their community, out there in the community, to, further support this. Certainly all 3 of these groups, I'm sure, are more than capable of putting together their own materials, but just wondering about what you guys thought about strategy or how to approach that, or maybe we don't at all because it's not our place. I don't know. Particularly Courtney and Kara and I, it's not our place.
Well, I think one of the things that we've talked about, there are all different ways of approaching how to inform people and keep them informed and communicating. And I think the communication is a big piece of this. Kevin, you and I have talked about that quite a bit. It would probably be helpful for us to be able to give people a sense of what's going to happen if this funding does not come through. Here are the different scenarios we're going to face if we get X number of dollars, or if this is what, the city is willing to give us this cycle, here's what that means for, certain programs that I don't know if that's going to be, a sports program, or if it's going to be a music program, or if it's going to be, the number of kids in the classroom, or how it might impact our ability to come back, into the buildings, or, those kind of things, to just give people a sense of what is on the line. Because it's a different conversation than the one that we've been having, which is, here's what we'd like to do for you. Here's what we'd like to do for our students and our schools. This is a conversation that says, this is what we are, this is what we're going to be stuck doing.
You've been hanging with Mr. Janelli too long. You sound like Mr. J.
He's smart. He's right about that. He's absolutely smart on that. I mean, I think part of this is just kind of keeping that line of communication open and just letting them know, because I think the other piece of this is also, and we've talked about this a little bit, is here's the timeline for the budget. I think the part of this is not only education on what we want to do for the schools. I think it's also education about how that budget timeline works. So that people sort of know where their opportunities are.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sorry, Kate. I mean,
I'm done.
Yep,
oh,
Okay.
go ahead, Jason.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Rich.
Obviously, I agree with you, and some of the things we should look to do I think, is on behalf of the board, and just, is something for Mrs. Cooper to consider. Maybe have an op-ed written as much as, and you put it in the News Times and maybe put it in the Hartford Courant or whatever, if we can solicit the papers up there to write it. Is to have something written in terms of what our plight is, whether we take the doomsday approach or whether we sell the sizzle. In terms of the hottest thing we've got now is the concept of the academy. I mean, that is hot. And if we can engage momentum, enthusiasm on that, particularly not only from the parents, but from a business community, I think that will aid our support. And with that being said, maybe we should consider making a presentation to the chamber, if we can get in there, relative not so much to the budget, we can tie that in, but on the academy and what that will mean to Danbury and to the businesses in Danbury, and to create the excitement there. So if we do that, if we do some sort of letter writing campaign, so it shows that it's on behalf of the board, or if we can get it, let's say on behalf of the board, that would have a lot more of a meaning than, Richard writing his own letter. We can try those vehicles. We've got to be able to reach out, and perhaps now in our presentations, and again, I often say, know your audience, start to say what's on the drawing board and then the impact in terms of if it's not there. We've got great things in store for you, utilizing the funding in this current budget. Phenomenal things in store for you in terms of the concept of an academy. But, both present dangers in terms of being able to be supported and funded. We need commitments. We need help. And it's something along those lines. So I think our strategy now has to be an emotional appeal, and important to what you say, Kate, but not totally doomsdays. Like, if you don't give me this, this is going to happen. Not as black and white as that, but to smooth it over and let them, basically know that things are not going to be as rosy as we'd like it to be, and they're going to miss out on one of the greatest things in the Northeast if they don't support us and get this academy going. So, and then also come up with certain groups. I don't know how we could reach some sort of a student group, whether it's good for us to present to them the concepts of what we're trying to do, and with the understanding that maybe they would take home the information to their parents and spread the word there, is that what the district is looking to do for them, and listen to their input, as Kevin has said, they shared with you before. So these are just different alternatives that we could look at. The problem is, as always, time is short. We're always doing things in a crisis moment, and every year it's during a vacation mode. And then with things that we do, it's between meetings and board meetings. So, months go by. We've got to accelerate our pace. And all I can say is that we can't back down this year. We've got to enlist everybody's help to get our money from the state and to get our money from the district. I want to make 2 points. One, can we reach out to that, what's he called, the lobbyist that we employ up in Hartford, see what he's doing for us and how he could recommend that we go about this, and again, put some pressure on that ECS funding. Secondly, what's the concept of trying to get a PR firm to do some professional writing for us? And can we use, her name escapes me now, the woman who writes for us, who does the digest, I forget her name.
Robin?
Robin, yeah. can we enlist her to do this letter writing campaign and do it in the digest and have it sent out, readily, quickly. So again, we express our concerns and needs in that. It's another vehicle, one of which we've never done before. But again, at this time here, I'm saying we've got to think outside the box. And most important is that the administration and the mayor get together and sit down and review what we had discussed last night in that budget meeting. They have to sit down, and the city has to be, the mayor and this finance guy, David St. Hilaire, has to sit down with Sal or Kevin or Courtney and all three of them as to understand what work we've put into this logic and the consequences, or the forecast, I don't want to say the forecasts as we've shown it. And maybe they even have a budget because, and I think Courtney hit the nail on the head today in talking to her, you've got to be able to work with a group who is supplying the revenues to you so you know where they stand. If they're saying that their 5-year forecast is, I'm making up a number, $10 million maximum, and we're coming up with a $20 million forecast in the other 5 years, and we never meet and talk about it, it seems like we're not on the same page. But we've got to start acting as one unit, one group in one town, and then advocate as collectively as a group, as a city, to push these things forward. But so we can't do what we've done before. What we've done before was archaic. We took our tail, put it between our legs, made our changes, moved stuff to the alliance money, and we made magic, and everybody thought we were the greatest thing since Pepsi Cola. But we don't have any more room for moving money. So, and whatever we do, we've got to do quickly.
Yeah,
basically.
I agree, Rich. It's so tough right now because it feels like there is no time to get this information saturated in, and also get the action that we need from supporters to make that all happen. So I definitely hear that, and I definitely hear your point about how we build this as like a collaborative effort, because I think that is definitely the way to do it. My concern, and I've expressed this before, is that I'm not sure that everybody who are in these elected positions are coming at this, the future of the city, from the same angle. And that presents a challenge. I don't know how we get everybody to understand that the health of the community depends heavily on the health of our education system. But that is sort of, the underlying, to me, that's the underlying message that we have to bring forward, and that we have to encourage other people to participate in.
Well, that should be our primary goals. Kevin said we're educators, and that should be our goal and objective is to make that point and educate them to that point.
I think so. Rich and I have had a conversation about this a few times, but I think to remain factual, because these are facts, they're neutral facts, and then you can look at how you opine about them, like whether or not the investment should be in student behavioral specialists, or but these are all facts. These are facts. And I think one of the things that resonated that Rich said is we're moving towards an academy. You can't rightfully open an academy in a few years and have these holes in your overall infrastructure. Like, we're shoring up something that is building to the future, like with a common set of understanding that we've become challenged for factual reasons. Danbury's grown, Connecticut's dropped. City's only given us 1.72%. We're challenged in our grand list. The state froze the funding. Like, a set of facts to all acknowledge, and then commonly say, well, what does that mean for us, and how do we do it? It is hard this year that the ESSER came so late, and we decided to do that braiding, and we're doing it, but we're doing it in a way that shows when it goes away, what happens. So I don't want to be the only one, and Kate doesn't want to be the only one, and Kevin and Kara don't want to be the only one, knowing that we've put this money into these grants that are going away and people are surprised. Everyone has to commonly own what that means, because we've got to build towards it. And I think that, for me, is the one thing I'll keep driving home, because even if the city fails us this year, it's a pandemic, they're not raising taxes, maybe we can budge them a little bit on the dollars. They're not budging a lot. That is what it is. This year, potentially, maybe I'm wrong, and this is the time to build that momentum. So we can put in place the infrastructure for next year's budget cycle that's more transparent, more participatory. People understand what they're asking for. They can advocate, because you've caused a groundswell of people to be involved in a way that is I'm hearing, from colleagues at City Hall, they're saying, we're getting letters, Courtney, we're hearing from people. So they know that it's important to people. And I think that means something.
I don't
Can I
want
just
to.
can I just say something, Kate?
Yeah, of course, Amy.
So to the point that you've all been making, do you, Courtney, Kevin, Kara, do you have plans have you met with David St. Hilaire and Mayor Cavo? I mean, is that in the future?
Yeah, so Amy, I actually I had talked to Rich for a moment earlier today. Courtney and I had also talked. I had reached out to Sal earlier to see if we can't get some time with the mayor and the finance director, Dave St. Hilaire. I know he had previously talked to the mayor, I believe, last week or the week before. But to Mr. Janelli's point, it would be good to get back in front of them and kind of walk them through, in a more informal way, exactly what we shared at the board meeting on Monday, when we walked the board through, that braiding conversation and what this is going to mean for us for the next few years, and walk them through that exercise, and make them clearly aware, because I don't know if we've done this as explicitly as perhaps we need to, and sit down and walk them through that exercise and make sure we can educate them on what our needs are, and then hopefully have an opportunity to do something similarly with the council.
Great, just because, just as Courtney was saying it, and you've all been kind of saying the same thing, if you can, if the emphasis is on this infrastructure that has to be shored up before we head on to the academy, which is going to be such a great thing for Danbury. It's like, what did we say? We said it the other night, something in the Northeast, and it's going to put us on the map and so on and so forth. I mean, we're going to be like a trailblazer. I mean, that should catch their attention. I mean, and right? I mean, that should hit their hearts. Like, yeah, we want this for Danbury. I know Mayor Boughton I remember him saying at some meeting a couple of years back, like, we need something like to put us on the map. And he was the one who I just remember he was so interested in it.
He was excited. He was.
Right? So, I mean, we need that. Go ahead.
Is it okay to speak?
Yeah.
So I agree, Amy. One of the kind of philosophies going in, when we set up the Nashville trip, was to, in the spirit of collaboration. That's why I invite the Chamber of Commerce president. That's why we invited the mayor. That's why we invited board members. That's why we invited some administrators and some curriculum folks to build that. This is a community effort. And that's what Nashville did. It is from the ground up a community supported school system, and that has advantageous relationships with one another. So you're producing a workforce for a community. Students come back and they live and work in the very town that they were educated in. Mm-hmm. Corporations stay where they are because they have help. They have dedicated help, and students and workers that come back and who want to continue to give back to the community. It creates a cycle of supported and sustained community development. And that's, a huge factor, I think, for folks. I think it's also highly advantageous to talk about, property owners. If I had a young child in the school system right now, and I knew that this was coming, and I was trying to figure out where I want to live, I'm probably going to move into a town that has all these advantages for my child and my student as they graduate high school. And there's a competitive price to pay for that, right? Sometimes when it comes to the housing market and things like that. So there's the potential for this is really, the return on investment has the potential to be really, really fantastic. And, we're at a point, I think, where, we've squeezed out I will pat everybody in our district on the back. We know how to make a dollar go further than anybody else because we've had to do that. And we've gained a lot of skill in doing that. But we spend more time braiding and meeting about the budget and the fallout of the budget and trying to mitigate the problems that we have and which positions are we not going to fill this year. And there's a collateral effect over time on that. And here we are in a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And I think that some of what's happening right now is a direct result of not being able to keep up with the things that we've needed to keep up with. And enrollment has increased and our classrooms are crowded, and here we are. So, it's a perfect storm right now. We're at a tipping point. We have stretched everything we could possibly stretch. And, one thing we've learned from the parents this year is how much they care about what's happening. They've never gotten closer, I think, to the classroom than this year. They've really kind of connected with the teachers. The teachers have made comments that I've never got to know my family so closely this year. Families are asking questions. They want videos. How do I help them with this topic or that topic? Amazing things have come out of a difficult time. And, there's a lot to capitalize on here if we can. So, I agree. I think the Academy is one of the most exciting things to come down. And I do believe it'll be a flagship. We've said that before, and we just have to invest in it. And no matter what we put, whether it's an academy or just a traditional high school, there's an expense to that. There's a cost. We need to staff it. So whether or not anybody invests into the idea, we still have a 1,400 student body school facility that will need to be filled with staff, and they will need resources, and we have to be ready for that.
Well, I'm just going to quickly just say one more thing and see, it's just like you said, it's the perfect storm, and it's not the same old city budget meeting. It's like, listen, guys, this is something different now. We just came through COVID. This will be Lynn. We had a lot of good things happen from it. We need to spend this money to remediate and get everybody back up to where they're supposed to be. But we have this opportunity. You know what I mean? Why don't we take it? Have people on the council seen the Nashville clip? The Academy clip from Nashville? I don't know. Just not sitting there and saying, oh yeah, here comes the school board. Oh yeah, that they want, forget it. No, this is different. This is different. This is for you guys. This is not guys. This is for everybody in Danbury, just what you were saying, Kara. I don't know.
So this education,
or what?
This education has to continue after budget cycle, right? After the budget cycle, we have to keep this group motivated and moving forward and reaching out to different groups. I don't want to cut everybody off, but it's 7:25. We've got a city council meeting coming up in 5 minutes. So I'm just wondering if there's anything last that anybody wants to mention. And I noticed that you put an article in there about converting your transplants to become more permanent Danbury residents. It's an interesting article, so I definitely think if you haven't seen it already, you should check it out. But does anybody have anything else before we call this to a close? Go ahead, Courtney.
Very quickly say that. So the council has published the mayor's proposed budget. He's going to present it tonight. And then I believe that the time frame for the education committee hasn't been confirmed yet with Councilmember Levy is next Tuesday, the 13th. I'll get confirmation. Maybe they'll even announce it tonight shortly, because they usually do that spring break week. So that'll be when our opportunity to talk to the council. And then between now and May is when they adopt the budget. So if we are so inclined, and that's the tact we take, that's our opportunity to influence people to possibly have the council push back to the mayor. And in the interim, as Kevin mentioned, we're looking to get a meeting with the mayor. We're just checking in with Sal before that council meeting, if it takes place on Tuesday. With Rich. Yep.
Go ahead, Rich.
Can we have a meeting prior to your meeting with the council so that we could brainstorm some sort of a concept as to how you're going to make the presentation and things like that?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Tomorrow, Friday. It's soon. So.
I don't want to bring you on your holiday, but it's
I'm here. Yeah, I'll be around. So yeah.
Anytime you guys see fit, let us know. We'd love to brainstorm so that we can make this, so I said, a Broadway theatrical production, so that we won't sell this particular show. And then the other thing I want to mention is, do we want to follow up and have somebody maybe contact Robin and we can give her information and let her put it into a form, or if we can get some people together that are good writers to write something up, pass it by Gladys, and see if we get it published. Do we want to undertake that and move on that?
As in on the behalf of the board? Is that your thought?
Yeah, I don't want to, it's easy to be a board member and put everything on the onus of the administration. But I would say yes, on behalf of the board, perhaps Kate and myself and Amy and other board members can come up with something, and we'll run it by Gladys and we'll run it by you guys. And at least we can get things started that we talk about.
I have no problem reaching out to Robin on behalf of the board, and probably just need to get a couple of board members in a room with her and get some feedback from you to inform her writing. Just make sure it's your words and not ours. But I can set that up quickly. Just call Robin tomorrow.
That'd be fine, and get maybe yourself and Kara who could support the
Okay.
needs for the items on these socially emotional, so she could put it down and at least we'll get something started that we talked about.
Okay.
Okay, and then from
Okay.
that, we could take a snippet and perhaps do the letter writing to the newspapers and see where that goes.
Okay. And I'll speak to Sal about the lobbyists that we had talked about before.
Go ahead, Mrs. Cooper.
Just
Yeah.
a quick question. Mr. Washington, have you set a date with the NAACP? Have that contact been made?
My understanding is contact has been made, but I don't think we have a date. And you don't have a date from
We don't yet.
NAACP group, do you?
I wanted-
Who was the contact made for? Do you do it through the chairperson or the education committee?
Education Committee.
And that person is who? Did you contact Julia Horn?
Yes,
Okay,
I did send an email out to her and have not heard back yet.
okay.
I'll resend it.
Can I give her a call?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Okay, no problem.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Gotta hop on this other call, as I'm
You got
sure
it.
all of you do
Thank you.
too, so,
All right.
Thank you.
Second it.
thank you. All those in favor, aye.
Thank you,
See you
everybody.
Have a
soon.
good night.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.